amazing. So amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. So amazing. You cause the sun.
Hi, welcome back. We're welcome back once again. We're here with Cherie. I forgot her last name, but with Cherie, we want to welcome you to the show. We're happy that you're here tonight, and once again, we're here with my host Dorina. Muy buenas noches, bienvenidos. Estamos aquí otra vez esta noche para exaltar el nombre de Dios, para alabarle, para que Él sea, que hable y no nosotros. Muy bienvenidos, Dorina.
Hi, welcome again to Women's of Destiny. We're excited about our show today, as always. We're a little tired after working in the garden today.
That's right.
So we're excited about being on a show. Our show, we're going to talk about change today. And we're excited about having Cherie. We're going to allow Cherie to introduce herself, tell us a little bit more about herself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, hi, my name is Cherie Dortch. I am a clinical social worker. I'm a school social worker. And I have a private practice in Garden City, a psychotherapy practice in Garden City, Long Island.
Well, thank you for coming. We were
Thank you for
hoping
having
you
me.
could be here for our depression
last
show.
3 weeks.
Yes, I know. Maybe I'll have to come back for another one.
That wouldn't
Yeah.
bother us not one bit. We like inviting people back. But we were talking about transition last week a little bit, and we had touched on a couple of issues. We had went back to our depression shows, the 2 shows that we had actually did. And there were some questions that we felt that were unanswered on the psych side. We did in reference to 3 parts. So we looked at the natural response of depression or anxiety, low self-esteem, and then we looked at the spiritual side of it. And so it was important to also touch on the clinical side. You know, we did have a lovely guest on who was a practicing nurse herself, Dawn Brown, along with another pastor friend. But we really wanted to touch on that piece in reference to the mental health issue, the psych side of it, and the importance of really doing the totality on depression and the understanding of depression and how so many people are walking around downtrodden and nobody really pays attention or notices it. You know, and when Dawn was here, she had indicated that for many years that she was depressed. She would walk around with this smile on her face, and she gave a little bit of a testimony about herself in reference to that she was a child that was adopted, came from a very lovely family, but always felt as though that she just didn't fit, you know? And so she battled depression for many years of her life. She said it was because of her relationship with Jesus that she was able to come out of that place on top of being in a place of worship and being in His presence. Though that may work, we know that there are many Christians that are still clinically suffering from it. And we can't use Jesus as, I don't want to say the wrong wording, but you know, we know that their relationship with Him is important, but we don't want to alienate the fact that people are still dealing with it no matter what, whether we're Christian or we're not Christian, and that it is something that there is a phobia about that people just really don't want to talk about, you know. And so we really wanted to come from the clinical part about that. And we wanted to talk about the necessity of change, you know. So when we talked about transition last week, we realized, and I remember looking at your card, you have a little butterfly on there, you know, which actually, talks about metamorphosis, it talks about transformation, which is actually what transition means, and change. So we're just going to give you an opportunity to just talk from that area just a little bit, because we just want to cover the psych part on the depression piece and the importance of people being recognized, that we can't just look at a blank canvas and automatically assume, especially when people are handling it. How from the psych side, from the clinical piece, you know, that we deal with the mental health issue?
I think as far as depression, I think it's basically people who aren't dealing with things from their past.
Right.
I actually do, I use spirituality when I'm in a therapy session. People don't necessarily recognize that, but I also feel like when you made a comment about not being able to use Jesus, but, oh boy.
I'm sorry.
Mosquito. But I think that I feel like people go to church, I feel like they say they believe in God, but but it has to be an absolute knowing.
Right.
And I don't think everybody, you know, they're still fighting for that, or they're
Right.
still working toward that to get to this place of absolutely knowing that there is there's a God and things will get better for them. I think that a lot of people don't deal with their past. So I think that's number one. I think they don't deal with their past and things that may have happened in their life. There are some things that people don't even realize that that's still affecting them now. So I think that's part of it. I think as people of color, whether, you know, Spanish, Hispanic, African American, Caribbean, I think that there's this stigma about doing therapy. I think there's a stigma about mental illness. So I think once we put out there that it's normal, you know, for lack of a better term, for people to have these, to deal with depression, to have depression, and that going to a therapist or getting professional help is okay. Once we bring that to the forefront to say, you know, I've actually had friends, when I was in school, I had to be in my own therapy.
Right.
So I've actually had friends who started going to therapy because I guess it was like, okay, well, she's doing it, so it must be okay. So I think that plays a part when we take the stigma away from it, like, you know, for you to be in therapy, that means you're crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to start, maybe talking about it more, just like you're doing here.
Right, right.
Talking about
So we did walk away with quite a few instructions from that, but I just really wanted people to understand that there's nothing wrong with going to get therapy.
No.
There's nothing wrong with going to go get help, you know, and I think it is important that regardless of whatever background that you come from, because it was told that there was some that you can't focus on your past, but if you don't know the root cause of what's going on, how do you actually deal with it?
You don't. I don't think people realize that it comes from things that they've dealt with in their life. There's a lot
that they haven't dealt with as
yeah,
well.
Yeah, things that they've been through, I should say, not dealt with, but that they haven't dealt with. There are a lot of people that I come across that have been abused, that have been neglected, had some type of trauma. I think we've all had some kind of trauma in our lives. So, and I think they just feel like that was a long time ago. It, you know, doesn't matter now, but it really does because it stays with you. And I think I talked a little bit about this before, about the unconscious and how there's a lot of, you know, we hold all these things and we don't deal with them. We just continue to go about life like everything is fine, and it really isn't.
And that's what Dawn was saying, that
Right.
she was dying basically inside, but she was able to put on a mask on a daily basis when she went to work, you know, and at home. Her family was suffering because that's where, you know, everything was affecting everybody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
she couldn't
definitely.
hide it at home.
And a parent that, and like I was saying, that I'm going to do in the school that I work in, I'm going to do a support group for women, for the parents, because I feel like, again, it's not talked about, but it affects children. A depressed parent is neglecting their child emotionally,
Right.
and sometimes physically, you know. So I think that's a big thing, a big deal for me to be able to do that. But I'm really, really hoping that the parents participate, because, you know, people it's a lot of fear, especially in the type of community that I work in. It's a lot of fear of, you know, I don't want them to know my business and things like that. But because of that, I'm making it a support group, and I'm making it informational, like people from the community will be able to come into the group to give any kind of information some of the parents may need. The teachers will come in to discuss any concerns with the children, whether it's homework. They have this new core curriculum, things like that, information for the parents. But also, if they want to come see me on the side to say this is what's going on, I'm open for that also, because I really, really feel like it's needed. The school that I work in, I went to as a little girl, so I
Right.
think that's why my heart is so into it.
Which is actually great, because we are talking about change, we are talking about metamorphosis, we are talking about transitioning. And as we look at the seasons, we see that we are coming from summer into fall, which is the 9th month of the year. And when you think of 9, you think of birthing, you know. And so every season of this year, you're going in there and you're thinking about you're going to have more children that you're going to be dealing with. and you're going to have to kind of cultivate them a little bit. You have an empowering group that you do for young girls. Tell us about
I
that.
have a girls empowerment club. My girls are 1st grade through 5th grade. It's just because of the community that I work in, the empowerment club is to expose them to things that they may not have been exposed to. We do an annual tea party every year.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a holiday tea party, so we do it around the holiday. We do it at the end of the year. We do a show, and I also do a trip with them to a college campus because these are children who may not have ever been exposed to something like that. We talk about hygiene, and there's one more thing. There's the tea party, the college trip. I know I'm forgetting something, but it's basically to expose them to, and teach them camaraderie.
Okay.
You know, as girls, so that they'll be able to take that with them when they become adult women. I'm very, very, very big on that part of it. You know, when the girls, when they fight I let them know you can't be a part of this club if this is what you're going to do, how it's important. I've suspended girls, and they don't like it because we they dance and stuff. I have a girl come in, Tawana Evans. She has a dance troupe that she has in Rockville Center. So she comes in and she helps with the girls and teaches them their dance steps. So they love that part of it. So when they can't, you know, it's a big thing in my school. So when they can't participate, they're upset. So, you know, I want to teach them how to be respectful young girls.
So you're playing that mother role part kind of in a sense
yeah.
for a lot of parents that maybe the mothers are not available as usual as they're supposed to. So I'm assuming, and just correct me if I'm wrong, that you're dealing with a population that we deal with here, like in Brentwood. You know, more Latino,
Yes.
African-American children, you know, from different backgrounds that don't have the same ability that maybe some other children may have. And so you're looking at it from that
Yes,
perspective.
absolutely.
You know, and so looking from that place as a mentor, because I would call you a mentor or a life coach that many people use nowadays. What is the importance and the goals to set for your young girls?
Self-love, self-esteem, camaraderie. That's big for me, you know, because I feel like if you have that self-love, you're going to be able to love the other women or your friends and respect them. And education, those are big. Those are big for me because you know, you can't educate yourself. I don't care what you want to do, what you want to be, get some kind of education.
And so from our communities, a lot of people can't afford to go to colleges.
colleges, yeah.
You know, and so what we're finding is that they kind of fall on the wayside.
Yeah.
And with the way the society is set up now, it's making it more difficult for them. Parents can't afford
No,
even
yeah,
the
you're
more
right.
for them to go. So what tools are you using for this school season for your children with the camaraderie, with like specific things that you're doing?
Specifically, the whole getting together for the end of the school performance. That's something that I use for the camaraderie.
What type of performance? Like the
Well,
dance group?
yeah, they do a dance. Last year they did a poem. They did Marianne Williamson's poem. They did a pageant where they modeled dresses. I got Estelle's dressy dresses, what gave us dresses, and the girls were, you know, they were able to dress up. They absolutely loved it, you know, able to model the clothes. This year I'm doing something, I want it to be more inspirational. They're going to do a dance. We're going to do poetry. So I haven't really thought about exactly, I know we're going to do those things. But also we get together, we go to the nail salon. We, you know, teach them about getting manicures and pedicures and just taking care of themselves.
So you don't see much, do you see much of that in the community?
What, going to the nail salon?
Well, we know we go to the nail
Yeah, I mean like the parents?
Yeah, I'm sure the kids and the parents.
No, the
go.
kids, maybe some of them. I can't say all of them. They were very excited about that. But it's just trying to expose this. I would like to take them to a museum this year.
That would be nice.
Yeah, something like that as a trip, because some of
We
them.
do something similar to that in Brentwood, where we
Yeah.
have the art festival. We have an organic garden, and we have an art festival, and it's local artists from our community, from Brentwood, from all parts of Long Island that comes out,
Oh,
and
that sounds
Nassau.
nice.
and we expose them to art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they come, they're there for a couple of hours, they get to see the artist. There's also hands-on where they're able to paint something themselves, you know, to show them that this is available for them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's similar,
Yeah,
encouragement,
yeah.
you know, encourage them,
So-
showing them other things that are out there.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what the Girls Empowerment Club is about. It's about exposing them to things that they may not be otherwise exposed to.
So percentage-wise, from your studies and from, you know, being out in your profession, what do you see that we as women need to do more positively? What you're doing is great. What Maxima is doing great is the community. Well, what can we do to be more encouraging? I know you just came back from a trip.
Yeah, women's retreat I went to in North Carolina. A friend of mine, Chantel Holly, had a women's retreat, a Women's Worth 2014, which was it was powerful. A lot of women were able to take from that,
Right.
which was good. We had 3 speakers. She had 3 speakers. Kimberly, who spoke about women in their wallet, you know, teaching women about money and finances and budgets, and Dorothy, she talked about the mind and body connection, which was that was awesome for me. And then I talked about camaraderie with women, like, you know,
Wow.
us being able. And mine was more of a conversation, you know, I had with all the women. There was like 40 women, and I had a conversation about, you know, how we sit around and talk about other women and.
Gossip.
Yeah, and I asked them, you know, one of the questions was, so what did you feel? How did you feel? What made you feel like you needed to say something about, you know, a beautiful woman who walked in the door?
Right.
You know, because it's about reflection and understanding that this is really about me and the way I feel about me.
Right.
It has nothing to do with this other woman. You know, so that's kind of what it was about.
So a lot of us women do that.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you spoke, let's talk about your piece that you had to do during this show. Why is there not more camaraderie with the women?
I think there's a lot of things that cause that. First of all, I would say no. I hate to say no self-love because I say that a lot, but I would say when you're not comfortable with who you are, when you're not completely comfortable with who you are, you're not going to be comfortable with other people, other women,
Right.
and if you don't feel that great about yourself, you're going to try to project that. You will project that onto other women and find something wrong with them.
Because I've noticed that women have a tendency to make another person feel rejected.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
'Cause
they
in
don't,
some way they feel rejected.
right. If they don't fit the mold or the clique, you know, or what's going on, and we talked about it in a previous show, that they have a tendency to alienate. Why do we do that?
You know.
I think she was right about the self-confidence.
Yeah.
If you don't have that self-confidence, you're going to try to, you know, gossip and criticize somebody else to make yourself feel better, which is wrong,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, it is.
But we're going to stop right here and we're going to go to commercial break. If you have any questions, please call in the show. We'd be more than happy to answer them.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidisciplinary practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have 2 practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible, and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. The same thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our 2 offices. Thank you.
YesWeCare.net is a 501c3 charity that provides help to veterans and their families. Please visit YesWeCare.net and donate in any way you can by purchasing our beautiful framed prints or relaxation CDs and DVDs, even smooth jazz CDs. YesWeCare.net. Remember, our troops are on their way home. They need all the support they can get. YesWeCare.net.
I am Tom Mealy for the Harrison Law Group, and I have been telling you for years that getting involved in an automobile accident is no joke. This is what we do. We're not new at this game. If you've been involved in an accident of any kind and you go to a law firm that says you have no case, it's simple. It's because they can't do it and they don't get it. You need to call us directly at 1-800-INJURY-LAW.
Hi, buenas noches. Estamos aquí otra vez, queremos darle las bienvenidas y estamos hablando otra vez del tema de depresión. Es un tema que ya tenemos 4 semanas hablando de eso. Parece que tenemos que continuar, que es un tema muy importante. Pero es importante que si ustedes tienen, cualquier persona tiene problemas con depresión, está deprimido, que busquen esa ayuda necesaria. Es tan importante. Sabemos que mucha gente no creen que necesitan ayuda o creen que otra persona van a creer que están locos, que tienen problemas mentales, pero es un problema serio y es importante de tratar de conseguir esa ayuda que uno necesita. Terapia es importante. hablar con una terapista es tan importante porque nos puede ayudar a salir del el problema de depresión que tenemos. Por eso está aquí la terapista Cherie, que está hablando que en nuestra comunidad nosotros muchas veces no buscamos la ayuda que necesitamos porque hay un estigma que nosotros no pensamos que tenemos que acudir a las ayudas necesarias para salir de ese problema, para ayudarnos. Tenemos que buscar la ayuda de Dios, es primero. Dios está aquí para darnos esa fortaleza que necesitamos, pero también necesitamos la ayuda de esas personas, esos profesionales que pueden ayudarnos.
Amen. So, did you have any questions you wanted to ask Maximo?
Well, when Dawn was saying, and when Dawn was here a couple of weeks ago, she was saying that sometimes the disease is so crippling that you can't even sometimes seek the help that you need. What can you do for a person that's going through a depressive state and is so depressed they can't get the help that they need?
There's not really much. It's something that they have to want to do. It's not, you know, I have people who come to me in the clinic that I worked in that I was so depressed but won't come consistently.
Yeah.
It seems to me like some people get so accustomed to that feeling, or they just feel as hopeless and helpless. You know, I've had someone who came to me who was a guy who tried to hang himself a few times.
Wow.
And he still comes to me in my private practice, and he's gotten to a place now where he is much better. And I think I was seeing him, I'm going to say 2 years in the clinic, and I've been seeing him for a year in my private practice. And he's gotten to a place where he's a young guy, he's in his 20s, and he's decided that he's going to go to school to become a psychologist because he's learned just that much being in therapy. He said that maybe about 2 years ago, he said that he had gotten to a place where he felt like he was flat on his face, and now he was getting up to walk. But, you know, I talk about the feeling, and it's something that I actually share with my patients of the feeling of depression. It's a inner pain, you know, that seems like it's never going to go away. And this is something that he dealt with, and this what made him feel like he wanted to take his own life.
I mean, we had a speaker that came to our church about 2 weeks ago, Mark Sharona, and he was saying how from 2009 to most present that he was in such a deep state of anxiety, and that
that kind of goes, and it goes hand in hand with depression, anxiety,
and how he was medicated, and he felt like, you know, the church wasn't really understanding. Meanwhile, he was still preaching and everything, and we're saying that, you know, it is important that we reach out to people.
Yes.
We may not be able to save everybody, but we should be able to reach out to everyone. And so I guess that kind of brings us to the place of change, you know, because there has to be some form of act or movement for a person to want to actually change, you know. And what do you do about, as far as like the techniques that you use in your office to help someone that may be, like you said, a gentleman, 2 years a man? And I actually want to touch also too on the issue with Ray Rice. I mean, his name keeps coming up in the media. The abuse, I won't say the allegations because we actually saw what happened.
Right.
And how all of a sudden it seems like there's an inflood from the NFL of abuse type behavior. The beating of the child from the one football player. And then most recently I was reading an article.
Somebody else was just suspended, actually.
Right, suspended.
For beating his wife as
right,
well.
for beating his
wife. A lot of that is learned.
Right.
A lot of it is learned, and a lot of it is that's what happened to them.
Right. So what's happening is like all of a sudden there's this influx, there's all of a sudden an awareness as far as domestic abuse is concerned. And for the women, you know, though they sit there and they go through it, right? Isn't there some form of mental health issue? And I don't even know if that's the right word to use because of the low self-esteem.
Yeah, that plays a
There
part.
was one, I think she said, she came out last week, or 2 weeks ago, and she, I think, wrote a blog why she stayed. I don't remember her name, but she was in an abusive relationship for years, and she stayed. And a lot of them, it's
a lot
mental,
of different reasons.
But for her case, in her case, it was financial, because they lose that financial base once they leave, and they think about that first before thinking about saving their lives, you know. And that's why she stayed. She didn't have a plan to leave, so she had to plan first. She had to save before she can actually get out. Because most of them don't have the money. The
But then
spouses
I find that a lot
have
of them are walking in a place of fear. You know, just a fear of, I have no family, I have no place to go. Even though there's so many options that are out there now where they can get help. But there's been such an embeddedness of fear from the person that's doing the abuse. If you do this, if you do that, you know.
Well, when I come across someone like that, I'm automatically thinking, where did this behavior come from in your life, that now you're looking at it and it's okay. I don't want to say it's okay, but you're tolerating it. Because a lot of times, again, we bring from our past relationships into the present. A lot of women, they marry their fathers or somebody in their family. So I think about that. Domestic violence is just, I used to work in domestic violence also. And it does come from not feeling good enough.
Right.
You know, and then you get a man who's just going to continuously bash you down and tell you nobody else wants you and all the other things.
But let's touch on that too, because though we're expressing the issues with women, men are being abused as well. And, you know, and you don't hear that as much on national television. Men are not more readily to come and say, you know, my wife is beating my brains out. You know, and I refuse. I've actually grew up across the street from a woman that beat her man down. And we were like, yo,
yes, wow.
we're laughing. You know, but in all actuality, men are actually going through this because of the way they were raised. You never put your hands on a woman. You know, something's wrong. Am I doing something wrong? And we laugh at it, but in all actuality, it's actually going on.
No, it is going on.
You know, and so we are looking at something that has been sitting, and it feels like God is bringing it to the surface so that we can deal with that word change.
Yeah.
You know, the Bible tells us in
a lot of people fear change.
Yeah, we do feel change. I know I fear change.
Yeah.
You know, I'm dealing with stuff right now.
Even if it's something that's not so good, it's still fear.
It's still a fear.
It's something new. It's, you know, waters that we haven't treaded. You know, like, I'm going through a change in my life right now. It's something new for me, you know, but I have to go through it. No matter what happens, this is what I have to go through. You know, and it's something new, something foreign, but, you know, you have to accept it.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's just go there a little bit, because that's really the flux of our show tonight, is the importance of change. The importance of making a decision about change. The importance of following through with change. And the importance of that once you're in that place of transition, that place of traveling through change, how do you stay there and not allow the spirit of fear to try to draw you back into a place that God is trying to deliver you from? Let's talk about Abraham. Abraham, when we read Hebrews the 11th and 8th chapter, it talks about that Abraham, I'm just going to pull it up. Yes, I got my phone. I'm just going to pull that up. It's Hebrews 11 and 8, and we're just going to touch on that just a little bit, because so many people are afraid of change. So many people are afraid of going forward. I myself is one of those people who have a tendency to stay someplace for a long time because it's familiar. I'm fearful of moving out and trying something new at times, just because I like where I'm at. It may be comfortable, and I may be getting abused where I am, but because we are taught that you stay until you can hear for yourself to move out of that direction. You allow yourself to be mistreated because you feel as though that I'm staying here because I need to know for sure for myself. And a lot of people won't admit that, but I'm admitting it tonight.
And sometimes people will say, because again, fear of the unknown, they may feel that if they left, maybe it's going to be worse.
Right.
You know, so stay with what they already know. You know, stay with the devil that you already know.
Right.
At least
they already know what's going on here, so why should I stay here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm not going to move from this place because I already know what to expect. I know what I'm going to be going through while I'm in this place. So why should I move? But why stay someplace if it's going to kill you?
Yeah, that's something I could never understand. You know, like is there something within you that feels you're deserving of that? It's kind of like self-mutilation.
Right,
know,
it's like self-murder in a sense.
It's like, yeah, you know, when people cut themselves and they do things to harm themselves, it's kind of the same idea, because they feel like, you know, on some level they feel like that they're deserving of that treatment.
But where does that come from?
A bag of baggage. It comes from, you know, their history. And there's so many dynamics that play a part of that. You know, whether they saw their mother or, you know, or parents doing it, and my mother stayed, or fear of nobody else will want them,
Yes.
fear
Right.
of, you know, I had somebody I used to work with whose husband would tell her, you have 3 children, who else is going to want you?
That's what I was told.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's
you
what I
start
was
believing that. You
And I
start
started
believing
believing, I
that.
actually started believing.
There's a
listen,
saying that I learned in my psychoanalytic school from one of Patsy Cherie, she's the best. She said, if somebody tells you you're a horse once, you'll
Right.
say, yeah, okay. And then the second time you'll think about it, and the third time you buy yourself a saddle.
Right.
So if somebody is constantly telling you something over and over and over again, if you're not good with who you are, then somebody's constantly telling you something, you're going to tend to believe it. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. So with that, it's kind of crazy because there's a couple of things that's going on. But why stay in that place? This is what I don't understand. And so I want to bring this out. 11:8, it says, urged on by faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed and went forth to a place which he was destined to receive as an inheritance. And he went, although he did not know or trouble his mind about where he was to go. Prompted by faith, he dwelt as a temporary resident in the land which was designated and promised of God though he walked like a stranger in a strange country, living in a tent with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs with him of the same promise. And so we see that the person stepped out by faith, right? And so as we always talk about, God has given us an acronym for faith, Maxima, full assurance in knowing that he is. And so when we're stepping out like Abraham did, though he did not understand where he was going, he made a conscious choice to move out of that place of familiarity and now go where his inheritance or his destiny was calling. And a lot of times
there's some guilt with that too. With moving out of us, you know. It's kind of like I talked about this with someone. Me growing up where I grew up and making the decision to do a type of work that I do as a therapist, and choosing not to stay around certain people. And then you get to a place, you know, is there some guilt there about you? Yeah. It's called survivor's guilt. Like, you know, you've moved on and you're doing better things, and you have people who are still where you left them.
Right.
So there's guilt that's involved in that. And then that guilt also causes some depression.
Right.
So.
Right. But that's interesting that you would say that, because I would have never looked at it from that point of view.
Guilt is not good. When someone feels that guilt, you can become.
But wouldn't that be considered like a soul tie?
You mean what, as far as
like, depending on the relationship or the individuals that you're leaving behind?
That could be, actually.
You know, it could be actually,
I never thought about it that way.
It can actually be considered like a soul tie, because you're so used to these people, you're so used to being around them. But now God is trying to move you out of a place into an unfamiliar land. And because sometimes people won't celebrate you while you're being elevated.
No, they won't.
We know that. You know, when God is moving you to another level, or
But I always see it that way.
Right.
You know, I always say to myself, okay, this is my time. I'm, you know, new level.
Right.
You know, so, and they can't come. Yeah, they can't come with me wherever I'm going. And that's exactly how I look at it. I mean, everybody doesn't.
Right.
But, and that's one of my things that I feel, you know, about Christian people who, you know, they go to church,
right?
They believe in God, but they say they believe in God, but are they really living that?
Right.
So I think that plays a major part. I really
they
believe
don't
that.
step out.
They're not really. They believe in God, but they're not really trusting.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
God is gonna, you know, that God is gonna carry them through their change, through their transition. You know, they always think, you know, if you believe in God, you're gonna trust Him no matter what happens, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what storms you're going through. And you're like Abraham, he obeyed. He didn't know. He was a stranger in a strange land. But he obeyed and he left, you know.
But you know what he did is he brought his cousin along.
Yeah, he brought his nephew, wasn't it?
Right, his nephew. He brought Lot with him.
And that he made a huge mistake.
Exactly.
Yes. But for us, we have to, just like Abraham, we have to be obedient.
I talk about that a lot.
And accept the change, because God isn't going to give you anything that He doesn't prepare you for.
And
Right,
accept,
so
you know, accept the fact that you may have to stand on your own.
Yes,
You know,
on your own.
I think
exactly.
that's the fear too. That people don't want to. They don't want to have to stand on their own.
Oh, so they don't want. But if they're going, like, let's say they're moving with their family, and though it may just be them and their family, like with Abraham, he was going with a flock of people.
Yeah,
it wasn't like
he wasn't alone.
He wasn't alone.
He
you
had a
know?
whole-
He was going with a flock of people.
harem, his
right, his whole
concubines,
everything.
everything.
He was going all this, but yet and still he didn't want to leave that one behind that he loved.
Yes.
And you said guilt plays a big part in that, but now we can see that it's probably is a soul tie, and you're hoping that as you move along and they see what God is doing in your life, that will motivate them to try to want to come to a place of change.
Yes.
Guilt does, you know, it made me think of something as sometimes when I run into people that I may have grown up with, and they just automatically look at me and think that I'm doing great. And
Right.
I'm not saying I'm doing bad, but, you know, and then they have to tell me their story, and I feel bad. You know, it's like, because in my heart I'm saying, you don't have to tell me to try, you know, like even in the playing field. It's
Right.
like, I'm not going to look at you any
But
different.
that's that competition
try
thing.
to
You know
Yes,
how you-
but that's what
so-
people do.
That's crazy, you know,
try to
because we see a lot of
justify
that.
the state
yeah.
that they're
But
in.
yeah, I don't even know if it's necessarily competition. It's just that they're trying to justify it, or they feel that I need to say, or they feel less than at that
Right.
moment, you know. And it's like, I'm not, you know. And I always go, that's good, you know. I want I really truly want my people to do. When I say my people, I mean people that I grew up with, my people in the community that I come from. I want them to do well. I think that's why I'm so. My heart is so into the school that I work in, because I want them to do well.
And I think it's nice that you went back to the place where you
It just
grew
so happened
up.
that, I mean, I don't believe anything
Yeah.
is a coincidence.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
but
So again, we're talking about
Yeah.
destiny. He was
Destiny
destined
and
to receive
plan.
an inheritance,
Yeah.
you know, to go forward in those things. And so we have to move. We have to come into a place of fear. That's what I'm hearing. When we're going into a place of change, I know, just struggling, just dealing with, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't
You don't
want
want to stay in the same state that you're in.
Right, right.
You
I
want to
think-
move.
that's why I
on.
use that butterfly, because that tells my story.
Yeah, the metamorphosis
Yes,
of
it's
who
like
you are.
I was a different person, and I grew into this totally a grown woman. My mindset is totally different, you know. So I love butterflies.
And it's
based on
important what you said. Your mindset is
My
different.
mindset is totally
And that's
different.
what we have to do is change. In our communities, the mindset has to change.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to show them
Because
that
I
there's
still live
more.
in my community.
Yeah.
But I don't, you know, I don't have that same mindset as a lot of my friends still do. And some of them I talk to, and they actually kind of listen, you know.
That's good.
You know, they say, I want to do better, and I want to, you know, be successful, and I want to make change. And it's a process.
We had to do that in Brentwood.
Yeah.
You know, one house at a time. We started neighborhood watches, one house at a time, trying to teach them that we don't live in our communities alone.
Right.
We have neighbors, you know, and we have to live amongst our neighbors, take care of each other. It's not just your four walls, but we live in a community for a reason, and we have to care for each
Yeah,
other.
absolutely. I
you
agree
know.
with that. It can be difficult where I come from in Hempstead, but because I just think there's a certain mentality there, and sometimes when some of the people that I deal with on a professional level, I just feel like there's this sense of hopelessness with a lot of them.
Okay.
You know, they don't feel like they can move forward. They don't feel like they'll ever get to a place where it's better for them. And I feel like I give that hope to some of them.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think as long as you give them hope and you show them that you've done it, that they can do it too.
So it's really big for me when parents come and I say, I lived where you live and I
Yeah.
went to this school. That's big for me, because it's like you can get out of this situation, whatever it is, if it's a negative situation, and you can do something different.
Yes.
And I've said that to parents. I go, you have to do something different.
So how would you show them as parents? Because they can get stuck in a realm where,
Yeah.
you know, okay, so I
Very-
got pregnant
definitely.
young and I never ever had the opportunity to go back to school. Or maybe they went and got
I
their
tell
GED.
my story.
Yeah.
I tell my story.
So
'cause
tell us a little bit about your story.
I had my son when I was 18. He's 28 right now. I'm telling my age. Uh-oh. So.
But you look good, girl, so don't feel bad.
Thank you. So, and I had it very hard. He had a father that wasn't there like he should have been. And I raised him on my own. And he grew up, he went to college. What I do with my kids that I have in school, I did with my son. Like I exposed him to things. I talked to him about college from first grade. You know, we were talking about that. But, you know, and I had it very hard. When I was 15, my mom had a stroke.
Wow.
So I was kind of left on my own to kind of do for myself. And I did. It was very, very hard for me because I had a lot of family, but I didn't have a big support. So I had to do a lot on my own. You know, I went to school. I went to college at a later date, at a later time because, you know, because my son, and I have an older brother who was, you know, pushing me to go to college.
Right.
And I was like, I can't because I can't leave my son at home.
Right, right.
So I waited till he got a little older and I went. And I just stayed focused.
You stayed focused.
I stayed focused. I had to because my son was my motivation. Yeah, my son was my motivation.
Your son was your
My
mother. So
son
how
was
old were
definitely-
you when you started back to school?
I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, but I went, and I was still in my 30s and I was going to school. But I got my master's and then I went to a postmaster's program.
Wow.
And right now I'm working on getting my doctorate. I'm working and getting into a doctoral program.
So you basically have to encourage them, give them
Yes.
that encouragement and hope that they can also do it. Maybe they're not going to go as far as you have.
They can,
but
though.
They, you know, they can,
Yeah.
but start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
It's important to start and give it your best
Right.
and keep going, you know, because you know, there's so many people that have started out. We all had
of us.
our, you know,
Yeah, it was, yeah.
our times
But you know,
where
I think-
we needed people to encourage us
Yeah.
and give us that hope that we can do it too. It's all in giving that person that confidence.
Once I tell my story to some people, then, you know, then they say I can do it too. Then
Yes.
sometimes they do get a little hope, but you know, and they have family. I didn't have anybody.
Right.
You know, I had a sister-in-law who helped my brother's wife. I had two brothers who were on drugs, so they weren't really helping me. So, but it was very difficult, and that's where the butterfly comes in, because I was at a place where I was absolutely mean. I was the meanest person. I was the meanest person that you want to know, and would fight in a minute.
Ooh.
Yeah.
She sounds like she's been in my family.
I was the meanest, and I know my friends watching the front saying, "Yep." One of my friends Sybil, I know she's saying, "Yep." Yeah, I was, and it got to a point where I couldn't be that way. It was killing me to be that way. I wasn't happy being that way.
Wow.
But when I got to a place where I was being happy, I was happy, and I said, "I'm never going back."
So how did your relationship with God change that?
It wasn't until I think I was a little older, and it was just my learning. You know, my spiritual input. I go to a spiritual center actually, and everybody there teaching me things and learning about life and learning about God. That really, really put me in a different place. And I knew from there I'm not going back. I don't even like being around people who, you know, do certain things where I feel a certain way that I feel like I can go back to that.
Right.
You know, I don't even want to be around them. They're my teachers. I understand that they're my teachers and they're teaching me to be better. But sometimes I always say I don't want the negative energy.
Before you said that, you know, you teach them the importance of education. That's one thing that can never be taken away from them.
Absolutely.
Once they're educated, it's theirs for life. So it's important, you know, it's very important to teach our young people.
I think me educating myself is what put me in a different place also. You know, I got to learn about different things, and then the field that I went into.
Right.
You know, just learning about humans and human behavior, and it helped me to understand people better. So I deal with people on a different level even now. I don't have to get that, you know, that angry or with people, because it's like,
So now you understand
I
from
understand,
the perspective
yeah.
on which they're coming from.
Absolutely.
And then your spirituality or your relationship with God, that plays in with it now too, because you're able to see them from a totally different light. But we're going to touch back on that. We're going to leave now. We're going to go to commercial.
Okay.
And we'll be back with you in a few moments.
Okay.
Guys, ready for the show? Yeah. Enjoy.
I'm Tommy Marr. I'm down in St. Bart's having a good time. A lot of people at this time, they like to go have a little cocktail. But you know what I do? I'm going to watch MadhouseTV.com. You got that right.
Hi, welcome back, and we're going to continue speaking on the topic of change, of transition, of not to stay in the same position that we're in, you know, to try to push through things to get to a different level, because when we put our hope in God, in Jesus Christ, He always takes us to a different level.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And that's what we're
Definitely.
hearing tonight with Cherie is
Yeah.
that she was angry at one point in her life.
Yes.
She's had a child at a very young age. And then through all the opposition in the process, she realized that the only way that she can change is that she had to make a decision. Mm-hmm. There are some of you that are watching tonight, and you want change and you really don't know how to go about it. The first place is admission and then a decision. Yes. You want to decide tonight that I'm going to make that change, whether if it's going to be to school, whether it's just to get out of the bed right now, instead of sitting there being depressed. The decision is up to you to make the change. Yes. We see that she made a metamorphosis in her life. She is now furthering her education to become a doctor in her field of social work, and she has her own.
Actually, I'm getting it in psychology, though, developmental psychology.
She's developmental psychology, and she too had a child at a very young age, and that just shows us sometimes we make excuses of why we can't go forward. When we look at the story of Abraham in Genesis, the 12th chapter 1 through 10, we talk about a man who was with a group of people that he was familiar with. What we're talking about now is we're talking about transitioning from one place to the next, because we're familiar with it. We stay comfortable in that place. God wants to change that, but He wants you to want change. You have to want change. The only way things can change for you is that you have to move. And that means it becomes an action word. The Bible says do not just be a hearer of the word, but you have to be a doer of the word. We have a prime example before us tonight. And all of us sitting on this couch have made decisions that we want change in our life. I came out of a domestic abuse or violence relationship. I'm no longer in that relationship. I'm more confident in who I am nowadays. I love my children. My children are going to school. And I have made a conscious decision that I didn't want my children to see that lifestyle being repeated in their life. Cherie made a conscious decision that she didn't want to stay in a place of anger and disbelief and just not understanding. Even with a support group, not having such a great support group, she made the decision, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get education, I'm going to better myself, and I'm going to allow myself to be around people that I want to be like. You need to ask the question, who are you hanging out with? And if you're hanging out with the wrong group of people and everybody is doing the same thing and nobody is furthering any place else, you need to change your friends.
Yeah. And that's so true.
Yeah.
Even if it's a job.
Exactly.
Like you were saying that, you know, some people stay in a job even though they're being abused in that job, not being treated properly, passed over for different things. You know, look for that change. You don't have to
I started decreeing, declaring, I'm coming
that's
out of that
place. That's right. You don't have to stay.
I worked somewhere for 22 years, 22 years, yeah. And it wasn't a great place to work. It was, and then it got to a point where I was like, I just have to get out of here.
And 22 years is
I was
a
there 22
long
years.
time.
I left
Wow.
to do what I loved, and I tell everybody, I worked in the police department, and the sergeant that I worked with that I just couldn't deal with, I went and thanked her before I left.
Wow.
I sent them all thank you cards. And I said, if it wasn't for you and us having this conflict, I probably would have never left here.
Yeah.
And it just felt like as
Become
soon as I
comfortable.
left, that's what happens. As soon as I left there, it was like doors started opening up for everywhere.
Wow.
I'm sitting here right here with you today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
So you have to move. You have to press forward. Don't be
so
complacent.
there's so many other
I
opportunities.
was at a job for 8 years because it was down the block from my house. I was so comfortable. It was three minutes away from my house, and I was comfortable knowing I wasn't being treated properly,
that was me.
knowing that I wasn't getting the salary that I needed. And it took, after 8 years, it took one thing to make me make that move. And then I went to a place where they just treated me so well. I was like, God, I forgot how it was to be treated.
And to be appreciated.
And to be appreciated.
Can you imagine 22 years being somewhere?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
And I wasn't even fearful about leaving. Everybody's like, you're leaving your job? I'm like, I am gone.
You were
I'm out of here.
done.
Yeah, I'm
You were
done.
done.
I'm going to do what I love. And I just trusted that things would work out, and things worked out for the
And
best.
so we're talking about Abraham tonight. This lesson's for me too, so don't get it twisted. And I think that's important because we'll sit here and act like ain't nothing going on in our lives. You know, in actuality, God is not just talking to the individual behind the camera, but He's talking to the people right here on this couch.
Yes.
You know, and so I'm appreciative about that. And I think it's always so important to be transparent, you know, because if you're not transparent with people, people say, oh, she's just on TV making noise.
Making
but
money,
no,
making
actuality,
doing well.
I myself have been working at a place for 25 years. And I feel like my time is up there, in all honesty. But I'm waiting for the door to be open. But it's not so much me waiting for the door to be open, it's waiting for me to move.
Yes.
So the same thing that I'm telling you is also applying to me. So I'm not just be talking, but I'm living this thing.
Yes.
And so I was sharing with Maxima earlier today. We were in the garden and we did weeding and stuff like that. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. That's just so liberating. See, with change comes the breaking of chains.
Yes.
You know, and we fail to realize that. We fail to realize that when we get up and we allow to move in the spirit of change.
Yes.
And I'm going to say it's a spirit. You know why?
It's a spirit of fear.
That's right, because it's fear that keeps you gripped where you are. The Bible says He's not given us a spirit of fear, but a love, power, and a sound mind. But what am I moving in? Yes. You know? And so it's a spirit that would try to keep you in a place that you know you deserve better than that. And so I'm not just speaking to you, but I'm speaking to myself tonight as well.
But
you know?
that's helping me too because I did it.
Right.
I had to move forward, you know. And like I said, I don't know if I could say their name, but I love them for giving me that opportunity. I was only there for 9 months, but I needed that place. It was a place of peace. They treated me so well. The Sisters of St. Joseph, you know, I thank them for giving me the opportunity.
Awesome.
They were awesome. I will always be grateful for them. You know, because like I said, the other place, I was the one causing the abuse because I knew better.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew that I could have gone somewhere
you know,
else.
when I left there too, I was more confident in what I'm doing because it was, you know, it was like because I was going to school when I was there. So it was always something negative to say. But, you know, I go to a job now where it's just, my job is to love.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
I like
And
that.
how can I not love that when I go there and all the kids are there and
love
they
the
run into me,
job,
good
yes.
morning, Miss Dortch, and you know I get all they want to come and hug and they make things for me. Absolutely love it. I couldn't ask for anything better than that.
Well, we're winding down in our show, and we want to thank Cherie for coming on and giving her testimony, sharing about her background, her love and her gift for children, and what God is using her to do, empowering women.
Yes.
And Maxima, we have to say to them, we want to pray for you. We want to say God loves you. God has purpose and plan for you.
That's right.
God wants you to know that it's your time and your season for change. And the winds of change are here. As we're transitioning from the summer into the fall, know that this will be the month for you to move in action and step out and change. God bless you and we love you.
Thank you. Bueno, ya estamos acabando esta noche y ojalá que alguien fue bendecido esta noche por las palabras que hemos traído. Cambio para esas personas que están en un estado de depresión. Usted puede cambiar en el sitio donde está. No se quede ahí. Cambie y busque la ayuda necesaria que necesite para salir de ese estado. Ponga su fe en Dios. Usted sabe que Dios está aquí para darnos fortaleza, para darnos esa paz que necesitamos, ese cambio que necesitamos. Otra vez, 2014 es el año de cambio, de restauración, y estamos aquí también para ayudarle. Si necesita que nosotros oremos por usted, por favor, durante el show pueden llamar, llamen, estamos aquí. Cualquier cosa, nosotros ninguno somos perfectos, hemos pasado por tantas cosas, pero estamos aquí para dejarles saber que Dios cambia cualquier cosa que estamos pasando, y nosotras somos ejemplos de que Dios puede cambiar nuestra vida. Él está aquí, nada más tenemos que aceptarlos como nuestro Salvador. Él está aquí para ayudarnos, para darnos esa paz que necesitamos, para quitarnos ese miedo que alguna vez sentimos de no salir del sitio que conocemos. Él está aquí para decirnos que sí, podemos cambiar. Él nos lleva a otro nivel y queremos decirle que estamos aquí para ayudarles. Que Dios le bendiga hasta la próxima semana.
God bless you.